There's some very interesting stuff about this wall. There's this shape here, for instance, is photo 51, and it was a photograph that was taken with a process called X-ray crystallography, and it was taken by this lady here. Come around here a minute. It was taken by this lady here. Her name's Rosalind Franklin. She was a scientist who worked for the coal board first off, but then she went to King's College London, and she specialised in X-ray crystallography. The unfortunate thing about X-ray crystallography at the time is they didn't know that X-rays caused cancer, and she contracted ovarian cancer and died from that. She's been called the Dark Lady of DNA. Everybody knows. Everybody knows the names Watson and Crick. Watson and Crick basically built a model of the structure of DNA. They elucidated the structure of DNA, but Rosalind Franklin was already onto that bit of science. She knew that in her diaries that DNA was indeed a two-chain helix. They called it a double helix and got the Nobel Prize. Along with this guy down here, Maurice Wilkins. Maurice Wilkins showed photo 51 to James Watson, who just happened to know that bit of maths, that an X-ray, an X in the X-ray crystallography picture suggested a helix, and indeed it suggested a double helix. This is David Attenborough. Everybody knows him, great popularizer of the world, and our place in it. Right. Worked for the BBC most of his life, and has been all over the world, and he's probably seen more of nature than anyone before or since. You know, he's did the life of plants, the life of mammals, the life of insects. You know, it's just phenomenal, his life's work. Absolutely brilliant guy. This one here is Rachel Carson, and she wrote a book in 1962 called Silent Spring. John Kennedy read the book and realised that the crop spraying, the use of DDT, the use of pesticides is actually killing our world. You know, she woke up one morning in the spring and there was no bird song. So she was a marine biologist, and she was really concerned about the use of pesticides getting into rivers and streams and eventually into the oceans. And she wrote this book, and it was an absolute worldwide smash and led to the banning of DDT in America and indeed around the world. This guy here is Patrick Moore, who's run the longest television programme in the world ever, Sky at Night. Very young picture of him, but Marlon's a big fan. Marlon, the artist, is a big fan of Patrick Moore, and he's done his face in shadow like the moon. He's an absolute hero and a great popularizer. Most of the astronomers now, like Brian Cox and Carl Sagan and all that, got switched on by this guy. This guy here is Erwin Chargaff. Erwin Chargaff is a scientist who came up with the base pairs of DNA, which led to Rosalind Franklin's work, the ACCG stuff. Everyone knows that from biology, but it's very important, and he's also unsung, and his work was plagiarised by other scientists, and he didn't get any credit. This guy here is an American broadcaster and astronomer called Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan did a series in the 70s called Cosmos, which led to a lot of people coming to the realisation that this Earth that we live on, this bright ball floating in its midnight space, is special. We're in the Goldilocks zone. That's his phrase. We're just right from the sun. We're not too far. We're not too. It's like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. That one's too hot. That one's just right. That one's too cold. That kind of stuff. Carl Sagan, great hero. This guy here is Gregor Mendel, an Austrian monk who spent most of his life in a greenhouse. Everyone thought he was mad, but he was doing experiments on genes, on recessive genes, on dominant genes. He's the father of genetics. He died in obscurity, and about 50 years after his death, 3 different scientists from around the world, Debris and Koren and another one, found his paper and read his paper. And they realised the genius of the man. Now there's streets all around the world named after Gregor Mendel. This guy here is Andrew Benson. Andrew Benson, a lot of people who are involved in biology and the environment No, the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle should really be called the Benson cycle. Calvin was this guy's boss and stole his work and called it his own and got a Nobel Prize for it. Andrew Benson never got a Nobel Prize. So, you know, this is unsung heroes and popularizers of natural history and in the world. And it's called the Heroes' Wall because they're heroes all. Right, that's that.